that when a man particularly tells a woman to calm down, that can be triggering. Now, my question was, is it really triggering if the woman in this case was actually acting in a way where her emotions were elevated, her body language was elevated, she was speaking aggressive, she was actually angry? Why would it be out of line for the man to tell that woman to calm down in that particular situation? Like, why would that be triggering?
Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm Jeanna.
And I'm Ivo.
Happy Friday, Ivo.
Happy Friday, Jeanna.
I'm drinking by myself today.
I think you're going to be drinking by yourself for a while now. I mean, I'll have some water with you.
Yeah, I was very kind enough to bring you a bottle of water.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Fantabulous, like Adam Sandler would say, H2O.
When does Adam Sandler say that?
In Waterboy.
Oh, I don't really honestly, can I be starkly honest? I can't say that there's any movie of Adam Sandler that I vividly remember other than Wedding Singer. I know. And I only really remember your name is going to be Julia Gulia, and that's it.
You don't remember him in 50 First Dates?
No.
You don't remember him in that freaking that Diamond Hustler movie that we watched that we couldn't finish watching? I
remember him, but there's nothing from that movie I can quote that I vivid.
But you remember.
So, but you remembered
Yeah, I mean that was my shit. Like those movies, like
yes,
those like rom-com, like laughing, silly, stupid movies that I used to just get lit and crack up to.
Yeah, and then you sucked me into them somehow.
Yeah.
But I did appreciate it. I used to think that all those kind of movies were stupid until you started to expose me to them. And I think the first one was Euro Trip. And I still quote that movie still to this day. I walk past people on set sometimes when it's tight and I go, scusi. Anyway, so let's get into today's topic. And we are talking about don't say this. Relationship killer words and phrases to avoid with your partner. I'm going to tell you what made me think about this topic. And for anybody that doesn't know, I would say that like 90% of the topics, I kind of stir them up and it's just based on like my daily interactions. Mm-hmm. So shout out to Ivo for always kind of like just taking that ride with me, because we'll be in the kitchen and I'll just be like, you want to talk about this? And he's usually game.
Sure, yeah, let's go. I mean, I pretty much co-sign all your bullshit. So at this point, I'm your ride or die.
And likewise. So what made me want to talk about this topic, I was actually having a conversation with a friend of mine, and it was through Instagram, and she had posted or had reposted something that another female friend of hers had posted about. I'm not going to say it just yet because it's actually something that I want to talk about, but it was a phrase that men like to use towards women that is super triggering. And she reposted it and she said, why is it that this phrase is so triggering? And I responded to her and I told her why I thought that when a man chooses to use this phrase, which it's going to be one of the first things that I talk about, why it's so triggering. She was like, oh my God, that's exactly what it is. This is why I get so upset when my husband uses this phrase against me. And I want to tread lightly when I say against me, because I don't feel like her husband or any partner that I know of is using this phrase in regards of it being hurtful. It's just being used in a way that
it's triggering.
Thank you. It's triggering.
It's triggering. I mean, and we're going to get down to the bottom of how do these things happen? And
so then I said, I thought it would be so good for us to talk about this, because there are so many of these phrases that have been, other phrases along with this one that have been said to me that are super triggering as a partner and super triggering as a woman. So I when I thought about it a little bit deeper, I said to myself, I'm more than sure that there are similar phrases that are triggering to men in a partner duo. And for anybody wondering, this phrase is, when your partner, more than likely a male, is saying to you to calm down.
Take it easy.
I actually think that take it easy is actually a little nicer than telling your partner during potentially a argument or some sort of just like maybe deep discussion or some sort of debate between you and your partner, and they then tell you to calm down. So when my friend reposted this and she was like, I don't understand why this is so triggering. And I then said to her that the reason why I think it's triggering when a partner says to you to calm down during maybe an argument is because they're implying that one, your state of emotion is not calm, and it's almost being said in a way where like they're gaslighting you to make you feel like the emotions that you're exuding are somewhat crazy.
So wait, what if the person is really like emotionally in an elevated place and they're yelling?
Yeah.
Does that not merit telling someone to calm down? And should they be triggered even though?
I would think that in that regard, if your partner is actually exuding... Actually, you know what? Before I answer that, give me a little bit more of a description of what you mean by like emotion.
Well, I mean, listen, let's just take the definition of calm. I think calm is just being very like unemotional, almost in like a very peaceful space. So if two people are having a discussion and it's about a topic that is a little bit tense and emotions are a bit elevated, body language is a bit elevated, and your voice is elevated, the level of aggression is elevated. I think that telling someone to calm down in that state is not necessarily like out of line. So the question is, why is it a trigger? Is it because of what's going on in that particular argument, or is it because something in that person's past that takes them back to a place where those type of conversations, when they're told to calm down, it comes from a bad experience?
I'm gonna try to do my best to explain why using this term with your partner when you're having these sort of disagreements can come across demeaning. It's because, where are you basing my level of emotion off of? So if my emotion is elevated, right? And you feel that my emotion should at that time be calmer, am I not entitled to feel a level of elevated emotion in a point where we're obviously having some sort of disagreement? Are you basing it off of your state of emotion versus mine?
No, I'm basing it off of the example that you're giving. So you're giving it as an example that when a man particularly tells a woman to calm down, that can be triggering. Now, my question was, is it really triggering if the woman in this case was actually being, was actually acting in a way where her emotions were elevated, her body language was elevated, she was speaking aggressive, she was actually angry? Why would it be out of line for the man to tell that woman to calm down in that particular situation? Like, why would that be triggering? Okay,
so I think the best picture that I'm going to try to paint for this is that there are many moments when this phrase is used when a woman is not being, I guess, aggressive.
That I get. I get.
And secondly, this phrase will be used when a man is comparing the level of the woman's emotion as to how he would potentially react. So then thus not allowing her to feel what it is that she's feeling at that given time. Because when two people are going through an argument or they're going through a disagreement, they're obviously going to feel differently about what it is that they're going through, correct?
Yes and no.
Okay, so when you're having a disagreement, that obviously means that you disagree.
Yeah.
Okay, so that means that you feel differently about it.
Yeah, you feel different about the topic that's being discussed.
Okay,
sure.
So if we are on two different ends of the spectrum when it comes to the topic that is at hand for our disagreement, then it's potential that I have an elevated state of emotion because we're having some sort of disagreement. Am I not entitled to that? If I'm not being aggressive and I'm not being, I guess you could say, toxic, am I not entitled to have an elevated state of emotion?
Yeah, I mean, to some degree. I guess the point.
Whoa, pause. What do you mean to some degree? I just said if I'm not being toxic, if I'm not being aggressive, why am I not allowed an elevated state of emotion?
When I say to some degree, because in some cases when two people are having a discussion, maybe the one person really wants to keep things on a discussion level, and so just the slight elevation can be triggering to the other person as well, and may lead them to start all of a sudden becoming elevated in the way that they're speaking. And then you have, like, two out of control, quote unquote out of control emotions that are slightly elevating on each other. So maybe just to keep the conversation at a certain level, one person might tell the other one, hey, can you calm down? Like, I can see that you're getting a little bit tense here, and and I just want to keep this at a conversation level. Okay. And so in that sense, I feel like that to say calm down can have merit.
Okay. So I feel like we're gonna go back and forth on this a lot.
You need to calm down. I had to.
Wow.
Well, when you're married for 20 years, you could kind of get that off.
By the way, that's a perfect example of how men will use it.
It was
I know it was a joke, but
Come on.
I'm just telling you, that's a perfect example of when that will happen. If I'm exuding a certain level of emotion for something, let's say I'm being really passionate about what I'm saying, and I'm really showing you that, like, my emotions are raw and this is how I feel. Many times a man will say calm down. I want you to think about that statement. So think about it. Do you actually feel like telling someone to calm down is effective?
It can be in some cases, but listen, I just want to acknowledge.
Ivo,
hold on. I just want to acknowledge that I hear what you're saying. I know that in situations it can be used as like a method of gaslighting somebody, or a method of trying to, like, manipulate them in a way where you're trying to get the person to think that they're acting in a way that they're not. Yeah. I get all that. You know, and I wanted to just take a moment to acknowledge that. But in the same sense, I feel like that there is some space where there is merit to telling someone to calm down, and and it doesn't and it shouldn't have to be triggering. Like, let's take us for example. I mean, we've been in situations where I know you've had to tell me to calm down, and I deserved in that moment to be told to calm down, and vice versa. And we've acknowledged that in the moment where I guess we're mature enough in our relationship to know that when one of us is telling the other one to calm down, there may be something there that we may need to, like, put in check.
Yeah, and that's why when I started this episode, I said that these are words or phrases that you should try to avoid. Yeah. Because it doesn't mean that you should never say them, but the example that I'm giving about telling your partner to calm down is when you're using it where you're trying to belittle your partner. You're trying to make them see.
That's terrible.
When you're trying to make them see or feel that the feelings that they are exuding are out of whack, like they have no merit to the way that they are, the way that they are acting, or the way that they're responding to what it is that's happening in that particular moment. And that could be super triggering because it is someone telling you that you're not entitled to feel the way that you feel. Now, as someone that has struggled with anxiety, someone that you have watched me have anxious moments, there's kind of like a joke that floats around social media about when someone who suffers from anxiety, when someone comes over to them and goes, you should just calm down. Think about how ineffective that statement is when someone is actually going through those type of emotions.
I'll be honest with you, it's a little difficult for me to understand because I've never been in that situation. I can't fully comprehend what that feels like. I can barely even imagine, right? Those are shoes that I've never walked in. It's a chair that I've never sat in. To sit here and say that I could even fathom what that would be like and what, the pain that it emotionally causes the discomfort, I actually have no idea.
Well, for someone that I have gone through it to the point where I've had episodes, and you've seen me go through them. For someone just to say to me, hey, maybe you should just calm down. Let me just tell you right now that is the most ineffective statement that you could ever say to somebody when they are going through an emotional experience. If you want to try to be helpful, what you should do in that instance is let your partner hash it out with you. If they're not, like I said, if they're not being toxic, if they're not being aggressive, if they're not being volatile, but yes, maybe they have a little bit of a raised voice, maybe if they have a little bit of like extra emotion in it, let them go through it. And then maybe you want to say, hey, I'm really trying to understand you right now, but it's a little difficult because the state that you're expressing these feelings to me, you could even tell them that it's triggering for you. It's not allowing you to really hear them. Telling them to remain calm is not helpful in the sense of what you really need to do is let them know how the way that they're behaving is making you feel. Now, in an anxious state, it's a little different. When someone is feeling anxiety, that's actually probably the worst advice you could give them. You probably want to tell them something like, maybe work through a breathing exercise with them, but that's a whole nother topic. But just understand that when a partner is telling their significant other to calm down, when they are just going through an emotional experience and they're not disrespecting their partner, just know that it's going to be triggering, especially to a woman, because like I said, it is as if you were telling me that I'm not entitled to have the emotions that I am. And lastly, a lot of men will say this because they feel that the way women react to things are, one of my other phrases, we're more emotional. And then because we're more emotional, we then tend to get more wound up. Thus, we then need to be told to calm down. So that's why
I think men, typically use that because precisely for what you said, but in my words.
Wait, pause. Men use what? Calm down or we're
calm
more
down.
Okay.
Calm down. I think they use it because and again, these are just my words. I'm not saying that this is the exact definition of why, but because emotionally women go places where men can't, right? I mean, we're obviously two different beings. You're a woman, I'm a man. We experience emotions differently. And so because that you go somewhere where a man doesn't understand, the logical thing for them to say to you would just be to calm down so that you can come back from that place.
And that's really solidifying my point of you're just, and not you per se, but men are basing how a woman should act emotionally based on how they act emotionally.
So let me ask you a question, right?
Sure.
What do you suggest the solution to this is, right?
I just provided that solution.
You provided a solution as to where like the man should be a little bit more understanding towards the woman's situation, right? But I mean, even deeper, how does one become not triggered, right? I think that's the ultimate goal, right? To be not affected, so that one has full control, right? There's no trigger, there's no button to push.
I think the only way for that phrase, in particularly for you not to be triggered by, is to express to your partner that it is triggering to you and that you would appreciate it if they did not use that towards you, and give them an understanding as to why and how that makes you feel. So that's why I said the solution is really taking the time to explain to your partner how this interaction is making you feel. That will give them a better understanding of what's going on inside of your head.
Yeah, I think that's a great start. I mean, you obviously want both parties to have an understanding of what's going on, right? You don't want one person to step over that line, but at the same time, I think it's just as effective for the other person to erase that line at some point, if possible, so it's just never there anymore.
Well, I think it's Let's use you and I as an example. I think it would be my responsibility to tell you how that statement makes me feel, but it's also not my job to police you. So if I tell you once that I find that phrase offensive and that it's triggering to me and that it's not effective in our communication as far as like us getting somewhere to a solution and a disagreement, then I think as my partner, you should understand and not use it.
No, I do, and I do understand, right? But
and I'm just using us as an example.
Yeah, no, I do, and I'm going to keep using us as an example. But I feel like that you owe it to yourself to destroy that button. I think you owe it to yourself to not allow such a situation to ever even occur. I think that you would pat yourself on the back if you could stand beside yourself and watch yourself destroy that button.
Yeah, but I also don't want to allow people to talk to me in a way that I don't want to be spoken to.
Okay, understood, right? But if the button is no longer there, then being spoken to in a way that you don't want to be spoken to no longer exists, right? It's no longer a thing anymore. So you could still be spoken like that, but that's not a thing to you no more. So therefore, it doesn't trigger you.
Yeah, well, I think for me, I'm going to first start off with applying some empathy to this situation. Maybe my partner doesn't know that that's triggering to me.
Right, absolutely.
And that's exactly why I said that I'm going to express to them how that makes me feel. If my partner continues to use that and on multiple occasions, then that's a deeper conversation. I've moved beyond it potentially being triggering the phrase. It's now about you not validating my feelings.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, as you can see, I really don't fucking like that phrase at all. So I'm gonna turn it over to you because I'm gonna sip my wine. I want to hear what you have to say because I'm just gonna I'm gonna calm down.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. You do that. As we were talking about this topic, I started to reflect and think about like, what are my triggers? And I have a couple, but I can't say that that I have a whole bunch. So one
Ivo on his perfect shit. But go ahead.
It's not even about being perfect. I just try not to let things. I try. All right. I emphasize the words try. I try not to let things get to me as much as possible. And you know that. And like that's I've been like a preacher of that throughout our relationship, time and time again. I really try to take control of the way things affect me, but it's never 100%. Something I always strive to get better and better and better at. But one thing that I just cannot get better at is when you comment about my driving. For some reason, and I'm going to get into it, that is a very big trigger for me. So throughout our relationship, I am, according to Jeanna and the definition of what a good driver is, not that great of a driver. Apparently, I've got us into some situations that made her life flash before her eyes. But she's still alive. Thank you. I'm glad you're still with us.
Well, when your life flashes before your eyes, you actually don't die.
And so, and you know what? The thing the thing was is that like we were in two situations, right, where we had literally. I mean, when I say the word literally, they were fender benders, like taps, right? And a bunch of close calls to follow those too. I may have swerved into the right lane, by not paying attention, and there's a car next to us, and so all of that just makes her feel uneasy. So I want to say pretty often we'll be driving and she'll try to navigate me as I drive, and it triggers me because it constantly reminds me how she doesn't trust me. And trust is a very, very big thing for me in our relationship, in all my relationships. I'm a firm believer that like if you don't have trust and you don't have honesty and truth, then you really don't have nothing. And so it's been very difficult for you to kind of move past the situations that we've had in the car. And so it's a constant reminder to me that you don't trust me, and trust, again, that's a triggering thing for me to know that I'm not trusted in this particular situation, by the person that I love the most. stirs up a lot of emotions. And so I'm not really sure what the solution to that is, because it's kind of something I feel like it ends with you. It really has to be a situation where you're able to put that behind us. And we've spoken about that.
Yeah.
And you've gotten a lot better at it. I want to give you credit to that.
Thanks.
But it's been
one hell of a ride.
It's been one hell of a ride for sure. No pun intended.
I think that's okay. So I think, do you want my opinion on what the solution is?
I didn't ask for your opinion.
Oh, okay.
But go ahead. Please tell us.
This is an intense episode. I think that there's two pieces to that solution. Number one is, I think you should take a little bit more of my advice as to how your driving is to make me feel a little bit more at ease, and then in turn it will help me trust you a little bit more. I'm not saying always take my advice, because I think that there are a lot of times where we do drive somewhere and you choose to drive a certain way that I think is more beneficial for wherever it is that we're trying to get to. But I think that there are times that I think if you took some of my advice, it would put me in a little bit more of a calm state. And the more and more I experience that, the more comfortable I am going to feel with you. Because on the flip side of that, I'm already just trying to give you that trust by commenting less on your driving. And that's hard for me. So it'd be nice if you gave me a little bit of what I wanted, because I'm giving you a little bit of what you want.
So are you saying that I haven't been giving you what you want in the car?
You just asked my opinion on
I'm just trying to get a better understanding of what it is. So you're saying that I need to be giving you what it is that you want.
Yeah, like on certain occasions, maybe take a little bit of my advice. I'm not saying that you never do that, okay. But you asked me, you said, what did you think the solution was? Because I think you're giving this example too, so that there are probably many other people that go through this. So if I give a solution, then that's maybe something that they can apply.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that you're not applying it already, but I believe that to be the solution. Maybe you're doing it unconsciously.
No, I just feel like that we've had so many conversations about it that you're just starting to fall back.
Yeah, so I'm falling back. So
it's literally been like over 7 years since those incidents, and it wasn't until recently that you started to kind of like let off of the
choke.
The choke, yeah. You were very tense for a long time.
Yeah, well, it also doesn't help that we just got into a car accident like a couple months ago. So like those type of experiences make me feel uneasy. And for somebody that deals with anxiety, that had nothing to do with you.
That had nothing to do with me.
So, absolutely not. Yeah. But so I'm going to give you a prime example.
I was definitely driving Miss Daisy that day.
Pause. I'm going to give you an example as to how that experience. So back in November, Ivo and I got into a car accident, and it had no fault of our own. We were just driving minding our own business, and there was some car driving erratic on the highway.
Yeah, cut us off.
Kind of like he was racing and just cut into our lane. So I know that in the past, I have told you that when we drive on that particular highway, I stay away from the last lane, because I've driven on that highway so many times. I've seen so many accidents, because I actually think I drove down that one particular highway almost like more than 5 days a week for over a year, because I had to take that route to work. And I used to tell you all the time that I used to see multiple accidents, and I would always see them in the left lane. So there's been other occasions where we would drive down that highway, and I would ask you to please don't drive in this lane. So it just happened to be that we got into that car accident and you were in that lane. You weren't doing anything wrong, but so it would be helpful to my anxieties if you sometimes, when we drove down that highway, you just took a moment and said, you know what, we're going to drive down this highway. And I know that Jeanna has fallen back a little bit. Let me not drive in the left lane the whole way there.
You know, I've conformed a lot. I haven't. It's tough. I can't. So just for
listen, don't ask my advice and then not.
Well,
and then be like, but no, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, just for like disclosure purposes, Jeanna will literally drive 40 minutes in the same lane.
Yeah.
Still get there, and I repeat to all of you drivers out there, she will jump on the highway, get in the lane, and she will stay in that lane all the way till the end, no matter what.
Is there something wrong with that?
I just can't do that. That actually stirs up my anxiety, believe it or not.
Okay.
It gets me.
That's interesting because we've never gotten into a car accident at the hands of me. So I'm just wondering why that would stir up your anxiety.
Well, it's that. I mean, that's not to say that you haven't been in accidents, though.
But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about you being in the car with me.
No. So we're actually spending quite a bit of time on this, right?
Yeah.
We had 2 fender benders, and this trigger was born out of these fender benders, right? We weren't even like we were barely moving when these things happened.
It wasn't just that. It's that plus other things, which you also did mention.
And so to say that. To compare those 2 situations and say that, you know, like that we didn't get into any accidents to the hands of you, it wasn't because of like, you know, my highway driving or driving at fast speeds that, you know, anything happened.
Yeah. So, but I'm just wondering why me driving in one lane stirs up anxiety. And
no, not you. I can be in the passenger seat. Yeah. You know me. See, here's the thing, right? Me as a passenger, you don't get a peep out of me. I am quiet as a mouse when it comes to whoever's driving, and even if they're on the phone and they're swerving, right? Like I don't get those things don't trigger me. She does not tolerate
Can you
that,
just
right?
answer the question? The question is.
So what I'm saying is that if I drive, I can't drive and stay in the same lane.
When you do that, that makes you anxious?
That makes me anxious.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant.
No. You. All right, sorry. I love it when you drive, right? Because when you drive, I don't hear nothing about my driving. It's fantastic.
Because I'm a safe driver. You're not gonna. There's no reason to complain.
She's a safe driver. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are. So that's one of my triggers. Let's move on, please. Another one of my triggers is anything that feels like a lie. And
I'm sorry. I'm just sitting here like I'm still thinking about that last one. Like. Go ahead.
Anything that feels like a lie in a relationship. And so
can you give me an example of something that would feel like a lie to you? Because if we're going to tell our listeners and viewers that these are like words or phrases.
I can't, for me, it's just anything that might reflect any past experiences that I found out I was being lied to, right? I feel like that all of anyone's triggers are basically they're present moments that are evaluated in the past to determine whether the present moment is a good or a bad one. And so anytime I'm presented in a situation where I'm kind of suspect about the information that I'm being given by my partner, I'm going to reflect back on situations where I know for a fact I was being lied to by my partner. And because I spent a good portion of my life trying to commit to serious relationships, right? And in those relationships, I was very willing to be the one to be honest and truthful and trusting, right? I felt that in order for me to be in a relationship that I was happy with, there had to be this degree of trust between us so that we can have this bond that doesn't exist within most people. So I felt like I was always the first one to like really give that trust, to show the person like, hey, I trust you. You can trust me too. And that led to me being taken advantage quite a bit throughout that time. So every relationship moving forward, any time that I was lied to, those past ones, they really hurt because I didn't see them coming. I was trying to be trustworthy and honest and, slightly naive too, because I didn't want to doubt people. I wanted somebody to feel like honestly and that they were genuinely with someone who trusted them. So I really took that risk and gave them that. And so whenever I feel like I'm in a situation in a relationship and I feel like I'm being lied to, it really triggers those bad experiences. Like, so those emotions, it's not, what's funny, it's not even the person and them lying to me that's actually making me angry. It's me recalling the emotions and the memories and that pain that I felt when I found out that I was being lied to in a situation and realized that I was the idiot,
Okay. So if it's, because this, I'll be honest, it sounds kind of vague in the sense of like anything that sounds like a lie. So
okay, you want me to give you an example?
No. What I was going to ask you is, How did then you move past this?
So
Because to me, this sounds like there are a lot of things that could sound like that.
So the way I moved past it is eventually I ended up getting out of that situation. It just ended. It wasn't, once I was lied to one too many times, then the ideal scenario that I originally wanted to be in could no longer exist. The trust was broken, right? I mean, two people getting to know each other and kind of like figuring out their do's and don'ts, I get it at the beginning. But once you're into a relationship and you have someone who's like, still a liar, you just realize in the end you can't trust them. When you're trying to like really build a relationship built on trust, like that's like one of your top pillars of your relationship, it can be very hurtful. The way I moved past it was because I knew, and I was so focused on what I wanted. Mm-hmm. I was willing to risk it again for the reward of being in a situation that I wanted to be in.
Okay.
So that's it's simply put, that's the way that I was able to move past it. I simply would brush myself off and say, all right, I still want what I want. I know what I want, and it's out there. And I'm going to risk it again because it was worth it every single time for me. So I would willingly get into these situations where I would put myself in a situation where I would potentially be lied to and hurt again.
Okay.
And then we met.
Yeah, but I'm sitting here thinking about all the times I lied to you.
You better shut the hell up.
What? Pause. Can I finish my statement?
Okay.
I have lied to Ivo on numerous occasions to try to get information out of him.
Listen,
so that I could trick him into something.
That's petty bullshit. I'm talking about deception.
Like, I'll call him. This is
people.
I used to do this all the time. So I would call Ivo and I would be like, hey, you know those jeans that you have? Remember the last time we went out? My friend, she was admiring them. She really likes them. Where did you get those from? And then Ivo would be like, oh, my Z Cavaricis, I got them from blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, oh, we're good. I'll tell her. So, because she was like looking to get her boyfriend something. And I hang up. I'd be like,
no.
Now I know where to go.
I'm talking straight up about hey, these things in our relationship you don't do, right? And then you do them and then lie to me about it.
So give me an example, because that's what I'm trying to get at with you.
For example, like going out and going places that maybe we agreed that we wouldn't go, and then you're lying to me about where you're going.
Okay. That's a good one.
So speaking to people that we agreed that we wouldn't have relationships with, and then lying to me about it.
That's a really good one.
So it's things like this, lying to me about where you are for whatever reason, like
I've also done that. I've also lied to you about where I am because I'm sneaking around.
But it's because you're trying to get something for me, right? I mean, like, you're out maliciously doing things that break the trust of our relationship.
There's been so many times where like I'll come home with something and you're like, what? Wait, where the fuck did this come from? I was like, yeah, remember when I told you I was at the laundromat? I was actually blah, 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 blah. I mean, but no, I understand. I know exactly what you mean. When someone is crossing a boundary. Yeah. It's not when they're actually trying to surprise you with something and they're just like withholding information. Yeah. So the one that I have that I think is, I don't want to say it's, when I think about it, it's super triggering for me as a woman, but the phrase that men sometimes like to say towards a woman is it that time of the month? And men will like to use this phrase when a woman is maybe going through, again, some sort of emotional, experience, and a man is deeming that experience to be happening because she's on her period.
It's just the easy way for a man to say, bitch.
No, it's an easy way for men to be assholes. Is what it is.
By the way, that's from Key and Peele, just in case anybody didn't know.
Oh, okay.
Just in case anybody
actually know
didn't
where that
know.
one's
Like,
from.
did he really just call her a bitch? No.
I think it's really ignorant of any man to assume that the reason why a woman is going through or having emotional experience, maybe she's having a bad day, maybe she had a rough day at work, maybe a friend of hers just told her something that's upsetting, and for her to come home to her partner and maybe be exhibiting some sort of emotional, how can I put this? just for her to be in a particular emotional state. Maybe she's her face doesn't look as pleasant as usual, or maybe she's crying more than usual, and for his immediate assumption to be it's because she's on her period. That really like makes a woman feel like the type of feelings that she's having at that particular moment, that one, her partner is not trying to understand and have empathy for her in that situation, and all he's doing at that time is boiling down her emotions to her being on her period, and that the only reason why she is feeling the way she is feeling is because she's going through some sort of hormonal experience. And this is something that is super triggering to women, because men still to this day don't even understand how the fuck most women's menstrual cycles work. So for them to have the audacity to say, oh, you're acting like this because you're on your period, when there are men out there that can't even answer certain questions, is mind-blowing to me.
I'm going to give the men out there a little bit of advice, and that is, don't attempt to even say this to your partner unless you have like a best friend relationship. Like if your partner's not your best friend and y'all don't talk about the craziest shit together, like you guys are beyond a relationship, right? You disclose things to each other that couples will never discuss, and that's how tight you are. Don't ever attempt to say that, because that's only something another girl would say to another girl, that's her homegirl. Like, bitch, you on your period? Like, so unless you got that relationship with your partner, don't even come out your face.
So that's actually a great way to kind of bring us towards the end of our episode, because this actually went like kind of left field.
It did. I think we should do a part 2 on this for sure.
I completely agree, because there are like 2 other phrases that I definitely think that I still want to share, and I feel like you still have some.
Yeah, in the next episode, we're going to get in why would these things be considered triggers, when they are triggered, kind of like how to recognize them and, what to do, and a couple more other things. I don't want to give it all away. Yeah,
listen, don't give away all the whole enchilada. Yeah. So let's do our cards. Go ahead and pull one for me.
All right. So can I see the color code, please?
So no, you can't choose, but I'm gonna just tell the audience, pick one. So the colors on the cards. So gray cards mean your past. Yellow cards mean they're random. Green cards mean that it's about life. Blue cards are relationship, red cards are intimacy, and purple cards are about you.
Yeah, I want to go with random, because I was always known to randomly bring somebody home from the club.
Okay, go ahead.
What are 5 things on your bucket list?
I want to drive down the DCH. I want to hike in the redwood forest. I want to go to like the rainforest. I want to maybe live on a beach for a little bit. That's 4, right? 4.
You said you wanted to go to the Grand Canyon too, right?
Oh yeah, I want to go to the Grand Canyon, and
you said DCH?
Yeah, PCH. Yeah, like, Pacific Coast DCH. Highway. Thank you.
And I want to go on Detroit Coast Highway.
I want to drive across country.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm gonna do. Oh no, I'm not doing that.
I'm all about the randoms. Let's go.
I'm gonna do about you, a purple. When do you feel the most insecure?
When do I feel the most insecure?
Quickly.
When I feel like I'm being lied to.
Oh my God. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, until next week on Spark Talk Fridays, where we're creating conversations about life. Peace out.
Peace out.